So I did some studies in law and in history, and I've got a post-degree of sociology. So I wanted to work in marketing and advertising, but then finally I was in banking as a financial planner, and I did that during several years, and then I left for Egypt. And in Egypt, I couldn't work as a banker, so I began to paint. I met some people, some friends, and they asked me to come to their studio and to paint with them. So so I began to paint like that. So that was 25 years ago. And so I was painting in the afternoon, and after Egypt we went to Hong Kong, and I was working every morning as a banker or history teacher at the French school, or I had different works, different jobs, and in the afternoon I was painting. So that's how I became to be an artist, but it was not a full-time artist. It was rather my work in the afternoon, and I was building slowly my portfolio. So after I met here also a group of artists abroad, and I did some exhibition with them during 10 years at the City Hall every year. Victor Segalen is quite famous for us French in Hong Kong. The French school is named by him, and also a room at the French consulate. And he's quite present here as in our culture as French, but very often we didn't read his poetry or his work. And I wanted to work with his poetry and his different novels. I began to read about him, and I discovered at first he went to Tahiti, where he wrote a first book, which was Les Immémoriaux, which is about the civilization of the Maori and of the Tahitian people. And then he was a consul or ambassador in China, and went in China for different missions, and especially one where he was an archaeologist, and he took those stones from the border of the road, all Chinese stones, and he began to write about the writing which was on the stone and his own poetry. And I really wanted to pay homage to his work about the stones, about his travel in China as a traveler and writer, and that's how this work began. In his poetry, there's a stele facing the south, facing the north, east and west, and there's a stele of the middle. The middle, it's because the reference is about China, and of course, and then also as a traveler, he says that when you are alone in the immensity, this brings back to yourself and to you, to me, he says. And so this is like an entirety, and this is the middle, because at the end of the travel, I am the middle, and it's about me. So that's how I came to do this print. So I create some matrice, some etching that I prepare, and that I etch in deep, and then after I do some ink and collage for every different stele of the middle. There's the one of the middle references China, and then there's the one about the water and the earth. Perhaps more taking about the elements and the feng shui in the reference of the feng shui. And this one is about the earth, so very brown and with Chinese characters, and the chalk used to sign the old letters. And then there's this one, which is the reference is water and wind. So finally it's like an earth, and still a reference about the travel and the entirety. So in his poetry, as I say, there's a stele of the middle and there are the stele of the wayside. And because when you travel, you have that stone, which can be a millage stone or which can be a commemoration, and it's really like along your way, you will have some advice or some mileage. And I wanted to work with that. With a poster from France that I bring back, and the poster, used poster that I take back from the edge of the road, and I use them to print and to do some calligraphy and to do some new etchings on them, and I use them as a new media and as a new background, and the signification will be the wayside. So that's how I came to work on that with the poster and with the work in porcelain using the same calligraphy, the old calligraphy, and this is meaning wayside, the stele of the wayside. And in France we have these artists in reference, Jacques Villeglé and Robert Heinz, who were doing some collage with the poster. And it was in the 68, 70, and they were taking the poster from the panneau d'affichage and having that. This is really modern art, so they are part of my references. So also you have the stele oriented to the west, so they are oriented to the sunset, so it's red and orange, and it's more for all the war and the fights and all what is more against you around blood and things like that. So for this one, I was a finalist at the Asia Society Hong Kong with the Jockey Club, and they did a homage to Irene Chou, and so I was awarded with this stele. And the stele oriented to the south, it's for the emperor, and only him can do the yellow color, of course, and so it's about the decree and the ordinance. So for these I use characters and some collage with old Chinese stones and that I research. And facing the sunrise, you have a beautiful light, and it's very soft on skin. And Segalen wrote some poetry about desire. So he said that it was the stone about the concubine or about the spouse, and they were always facing the sunrise. So that's why I decided to do this stele to the desire with old images from 1920s of a beautiful Chinese girl, and to have that little clay work about a beautiful young girl, and so this is about design. So in the entrance, here I wanted to have that big metal shape as a stele, and to have that very hieratic, very imposant, and together with some maps of old China. So this is the cosmogony, the sky of China, and this is a very old map of Guangdong with Hong Kong, and together with painting to see the ground from above. So this is about the maps. And I'm always very interested with maps, and I have another project for next year about the maps. I'm using, yes, different materials, because what happened after when I was in Hong Kong, that we went back to France, and then I did the fine art school. And at the fine art school, then what I wanted to study, it was new techniques. And also what I understood from that is that you have a purpose and that you want to express, and for that you take a different technique to speak about it. So that's why I use lots of technique for only one aim, one thing. So this, it was a stele, it was a poetry, and so I took different media, because for me the expression will be yes, etching, will be glaze, will be clay, will be porcelain, will be kekemono and shuan paper, and all this is just to talk about the same thing. So yes, I think in general things are not perfect, and I don't want to be perfect, and because to be perfect is boring. And I like the edge, I like the fringe, I like the fact that you have something which is incomplete, and that's why I let my paper like this with a fringe on the edge. So you can see the complete artwork, and this is a paper, how it comes when you take a full page, and that's why it's like this. About emotions, I think it's more, I do some Tai Chi course, because before beginning some painting, I think you need to reassemble yourself, and to be like for Chinese painting, to be in that mood when you are able to do in a row your work. So it's really a lot about interiority and peace. 2019 was the 100 years anniversary of the death of Victor Segalen, and as I wanted to work about his work and poetries, it took me 1 year to create all this artwork here. I arrived in Hong Kong in '99, so that was more than 20 years ago. And at that time I was overwhelmed by the verticality, by the activity, the energy of the city, and I really love Hong Kong, and I thought it was so challenging to be able to live here, and that was an everyday challenge to be able to take the bus, to drive in Hong Kong, and then to work in Hong Kong, and then I thought it was really challenging and difficult, and I was so proud to be able to be part of the city and to be part of the energy, and always what I want to express is a lot of respect for the Hong Kong people, and I really love this city. So we left to go back to France, so that's why that's when I studied fine arts, and then we are really happy to be able to come back and to be in this energetic city again. To express Hong Kong, as I said, with lots of love about all the activity and the different places, I wanted to express this about the senses in Hong Kong. So because, as I said, your senses are overwhelmed when you arrive here with the verticality. So in the senses, the first one is the visual, and so it will be the verticality and the reflection that you can find here, and so there's a story about how you hear Hong Kong, how you smell Hong Kong, because sometimes it's smelling the sea in Central, and so you have the marine maps, and also how you hear Hong Kong with all the noise, and which begins by some silence, and then it's increasing more and more with the race, and at the end it's touch Hong Kong, because for us European, I think there are lots of things which are so different, you know, like the beautiful trees and the jade, and and the silk from the Western market, and at the end it's taste Hong Kong, because lots of new taste and different things. So I did that book to say about my love of the city.